Amazing. And kind of referencing this progression, and you've kind of referred to this stage of VCT America as this G2's training arc for expanding that map, like you mentioned, addressing corrode, testing some crazy compositions. And I was curious if you then at the individual level have been kind of testing out different coaching styles and approaches, especially because I feel like a lot of your interviews in the past have talked about like your philosophy and your mentality, balancing constructive feedback and motivation and being that, blow your top off coach when you have to be. So I was curious, like, have you like, if you think back to the first match and this match, have you tried anything new yet?
Yeah, so this pickup kind of reflects that. I've been more and more into the mental game,
Mm-hmm.
because I realized like there's something that's like blocking us
Mm-hmm.
as a group from winning those international trophies.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it could be the strategy. We always look through that, and I'm always been strategic focused on that. So like I generally know like what failed and what worked in our campaigns, but I would say like the mental part of the game was kind of lacking. I would say like our team environment has been um, let's say we got a little too comfortable in those
Mm-hmm.
moments. I feel like we need to take care of our like the mental edge, and I think Andre kind of gives a player side example, a role model of that. So like you notice like there's a lot more energy in the games. There's a lot more positive like self talk and positive team talk. Maybe it shows in the comms, but I could tell you like that's happening a lot more. It used to happen a lot in this team. I guess like when you're first like the underdog into the scene in
Yeah, of
2024, like
course.
all
No
the attention to
expectations.
yeah, and we everybody rated us really low, and we're like, that like screw all you guys, we'll make it work. Um, but now it's like a very different feeling when you're a favorite and you're an overdog, and you can't stay too comfortable. You have to feel, you got to figure out a way to push yourself. And I thought like having someone that's like a insane fragger, or insane prospect, because there were options in that fifth slot for Leaf. Would have been kind of a bad move for us. I wanted to change a little bit, like internally, the culture of like the playing environment. I think that the culture as a team is really, really strong. Like we're comfortable talking to each other, and that's when I realized like, oh, maybe this is what's needed a little bit, just so that it jumpstarts all of us. So yeah, it's been fun, like teaching a 30-year-old caster how to play the game again in a different role, mind you. He's not used to this role, so
Yeah.
it's a lot like, it made me really dig deep, to just, like, how do I teach this again? It's kinda cool, and you can't get mad at Andre, like, when he messes up, like, you can't get mad at him, so it's like, you look at yourself a little bit and just realize, like, I should explain that better, and then that thought probably, is I think all the players think that, like you can't really get mad at the guy. It's about like how do I do this better, and that kind of promotes the level of accountability that I really wanted in this team.
Nice, and I definitely looked at home on the chamber, so I'm sure that's a nice fit for retraining that role. But I'm glad you mentioned that kind of change in the player environment more than the team culture, because this again coming from past interviews, you mentioned like you want to embrace that kind of fanatic nature of okay, be a little bit carefree, have fun out there, and don't be kind of as like win centric because of that kind of redefined expectation on the team after winning back to back trophies. And so I was curious then, what does that ideal balance look like for you? Because obviously you can't go too carefree or over the edge, because then you'll start making mistakes, you'll start taking engagements you shouldn't have. But then you also want to kind of uphold again that standard that you guys have built and that you've referred to again previously. So what does
Yeah,
that
it
ideal look for you, and when was that defined? Was it just during Toronto, or was it like kind of a goal long term, etc.?
was actually defined when I first joined the team. I had like kind of a vision, um, of like where this team should go and like what kind of team I wanted to coach and lead. And I mean, this didn't come from like my own experiences. Actually, like my past experiences were actually failures. So, like, okay, those weren't good environments, and then or winning environments. And then I've looked at and studied like other top teams of different games, like how do they like operate. So it that was like what I was trying to emulate. And not only that, like sport
Mm-hmm.
teams, like real life sport teams, like
Yeah.
so there's examples everywhere. It's just about like keeping yourself accountable to like a higher standard and making sure like we're not um regressing. We're always trying to progress in a growth mindset. And this is like what everybody thinks of as a team. I always feel like that's what every high performing team should think about. Like you're trying to get better every day, improve a little bit, make sure. Yeah, like this industry is so focused on the wins and losses, but we gotta have a good process like how to win, right? And Yeah, this is just like this recent like past like month is just a reflection of like me going through like what is going wrong with our process here, and maybe this was slipping, so this is my attempt to fix it.
Yeah, fine tooth comb before you get to Paris.
Yeah.
And kind of mentioning, you said you were a sports nerd and an esports nerd as well in turn. And I know I experienced that firsthand back in Berlin when the map pool shifted and you were talking of all these strategies and things you're excited for. And G2 has been, I think, at the helm at times, kind of steering that meta. And you mentioned something you take pride in is being the one that's able to have a successful team and understanding of a meta. So I was, wanted to get your opinion. I'm sure you've watched the other games in other regions. Where do you think the current meta is heading with the new maps, with Tejo getting nerfed, etc. We've seen a lot of the Patroller, for example, etc. And how do you think G2 plays a role and a place in that?
Yeah, so I think the first movers advantage is kind of lost. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think HyperX took that, right. Like they got the double duelist down, and then I think Fnatic on the other end with their really controlling style with their double sentinels
Mm-hmm.
got that. I mean, they weren't like the first ones to do it, but they're generally the ones that win the most in that time. They kind of set like precedent of like what the meta is going to be. So honestly, it's between those two styles of comps, and it makes sense because you need enough aggression to like dive past those really tough like controlling styles that those double sentis provide, but also like you can flip it the other way. Like if you don't have enough to solve those double senti comps, and I would bucket it to the double controller with the
Mm-hmm.
senti, like a very controlling style. Like you'll have a tough time winning those matches. So yeah, I mean, my view at that point is now this is like mature meta stage where it's just about playing it better than the other team. So like it's now we understand where the meta is. Okay, cool. Let's play it better than these other teams. And now that's just my job to try to like teach that to the players.